highest demand. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Daniel Burrus.
Right. Hey, thank you for joining. As you know, what I'm doing is calling these Know What's Next, which, by the way, is the name of a magazine that we publish. We have a new one coming out soon. You'll want to check that out. You can find it on Amazon or on our own website at burrus.com. But with Know What's Next, what I'm doing is looking at the game changers and, of course, giving you plenty of time for questions and answers. So as I'm talking and stimulating you, I want you to make sure that if you've got an idea for a question that you want to bounce off me, you type it in below, or know that you can, of course, raise your hand when we get to the question and answer part of this, and then we'll turn on your mic so that you can ask me. So one of the things that I want to get into is I want to make sure that your opportunity antenna is up and it stays up, because there's amazing opportunities that are right there in front of us, but we can miss them. And right now, thanks to the pandemic, and again, I don't want to put down the devastating impact of the pandemic. Let's face it, in the United States, the January statistic was, in the United States, every 32 seconds, 3,100 people died. Well, that's not good. So in other words, wow, it's been very negative. But remember, opposites, you have to look at both sides of everything. So when something bad is happening, something good is happening. By the way, when something good is happening, something bad is happening. I like to look at both sides. So in this case, even though we have a lot of bad things taking place, luckily we do have vaccines starting to come in and bring things back down to more of what I would call that next normal. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on that right now. What I want to do is talk about that opportunity antenna and keeping your sights on that and point out a few things. Number one, every industry right now, 2021, 2022, is being redefined and reinvented right now as we speak. Maybe they didn't want to be, too bad. They're going to be anyway, because of the massive technology acceleration that we had in 2020 as we were all forced to change. And when you are forced to change, when you are forced to lock down, it isn't just e-commerce that changes things. And, for example, healthcare. They've been in a crisis mode for a long time now, over a year. And I work with a lot of CEOs, actually many dozens of them in different countries, of hospitals. And a lot of them are, at a point of they don't know if they can even go on financially, because their main bread and butter is not treating people with COVID. It's treating people that are getting a new knee or getting plastic surgery or some other kind of procedure. And of course, those have been pushed more to the side as we've dealt with COVID. So in other words, revenue has been an issue. As you also know, with hospitals, we're doing remote diagnostics more than ever before. Could have done that before, but it zoomed ahead. Remote disease management, predict and prevent medicine is finally getting to the forefront. We could have done that before, but now it's getting big. Why? Because I'd rather not be in a break-fix mode, fixing you after you're broken. I would like to look at how do we keep you from getting broken in the first place, and tools from your smartphone on, software on, that you could be developing yourself as one person is all right there for us to redefine and reinvent healthcare, including how we pay for it, how we deliver it. Not only that, as you might guess, drug discovery being redefined and reinvented right now, because we're not just looking at what we did with COVID and having the world's PhDs and doctors all looking at how do we create a vaccine and do it fast, and are there some things that we can do to make that happen in a safe way? Could we do that with other things? And the answer is yeah, because there's a global brain that we could put and not just focus on COVID. Maybe we should focus that on healthcare or on education or on retail. I mean, the global brain is pretty powerful when you focus. See, the key is focusing. So we're going to redefine and reinvent during a short period of time, healthcare. We could be in on that big, lots to be made on that, but that's just one. How about retail? Right now, a lot of shopping centers are being reconverted into something else. Not just warehouses, although that is a low-hanging fruit, but there are many other things that we could do with those shopping centers. And by the way, does that mean we're not going to have retail shopping centers? And the answer is yes. Remember one of the concepts that I teach in the learning system, and that is the both and principle. It's not either this or that as you look to the future, it's this and that. But we way overbuilt everywhere, not just in the United States, but in Europe and in Asia. We've got way too many shopping centers. They're all over the place. Boy, if you ever go to Florida, you'll see them on every block. Well, we overdid. So instead of them just being hollow, empty buildings, as more and more go to e-commerce, we're going to redefine and reinvent the customer experience for retail, have less shopping centers for retail, so that we can have actual good experiences and have people shopping, because we do want to get out and shop. We like to do that. It's an experience. Plus, how many times have you gone to a store and you're browsing, and you can browse online, but it's not the same because you're browsing for a specific thing or a specific category. And often when you're in a store, it's something that's not in your mindset category that you end up buying. Oh, I didn't know about that. Oh, I didn't know there was such a thing. So we like to shop. Point is, we're going to redefine and reinvent retail and shopping in shopping malls. But at the same time, there's way too many malls. We're going to be doing other things at those malls, tremendous opportunities. We're reinventing and redefining what going to the office is all about right now. What does that look like? Because now we've learned that we can be very efficient working at home. So does that mean we don't need an office? Once again, the both and concept helps you to see, oh yeah, we need an office, but not just to house people. As I talked about the last time we had one of these Know What's Next. So what is the new highly productive, highly beneficial use for an office? And how do you reconfigure it? And what does that furniture look like? And what do the walls look like? What could we do with that? Wow. So much money is going to be made on that on a global level. It's unbelievable. And that is engineering, that's architecture, that's design, that's rethinking office furniture, all of that kind of stuff. Another one is education. And, both K-12, meaning teaching children up to before college, that has been completely disrupted, not just here in the United States, but all over the world. And now we're trying to step back and look at, well, what did we learn from that disruption? Because we want to get kids back in school, but could we take things that we learned from remote learning? Could we use, for example, there's already a startup that has found a way to use artificial intelligence to tutor kids in math and make it fun and inexpensive to tutor kids in other subjects. Remember, you don't have to own the AI. You have to come up with a use for the AI. It's the money is made and not the tool. It's also made in the use of the tool. How about energy? There are amazing breakthroughs as we redefine and reinvent energy. Remember, it's the both and world. Instead of getting rid of gas and oil, now we're still going to have gas and oil, but we also have solar and green energy. And we know which direction we need to go. We need to do much more on the green energy end, but it doesn't mean we're not going to have an internal combustion engine. We just have to use them instead of for everything, more defined ways that we use them, more defined ways that we use gas and oil and get more efficient in the use of that. By the way, we've had some breakthroughs in solar in the last 10 years. Photovoltaics has dropped in price by 89%, and its efficiency now is actually, if you look at wind and solar, it beats any other form of coal or natural gas or anything else. But you can't just flip a switch and say, okay, we're just going for that. Again, it's a combination. It's how we can work together with those things. Banking, redefining and reinventing what banking is all about. Redefining and reinventing drugstores and what they do. Let's face it, we're turning them into now a mini place for you to go get healthcare. So I could go on and on. The point is, whether it's purchasing, logistics, supply chain, everything is being redefined and reinvented. I say good. I don't want to get back to the way it was. Wasn't all that great anyway. As a matter of fact, everything can be made better. I say great, because there's tools to do that. So let's talk about some things with our opportunity antenna up to stimulate you. I'm sure some of you noticed that Elon Musk decided, what was it, last week, to buy $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, in the 40-something thousand dollar bracket. Why would you do that? That's 10% of Tesla's cash. A lot of people say, boy, that's stupid. That's Elon being crazy. Well, I don't know if you can write Elon off as just totally crazy. He's done too much to be totally crazy. So if we look a little bit further to see what's going on, he looked at an interesting thing, and that is in 2020, 24% of every US dollar that was ever created in history was created in 2020. We printed 24% of every dollar that's ever been printed since the dollar first came out in the United States. What does that mean? Inflation is likely to be happening here. And if you look already, if you've got your money in a bank, you're probably making under 1% right now. Yet the inflation rate is at 2.2%. And we've been doing a lot of things to artificially keep it down for quite a long time. But it's going to be kind of hard to do when you're printing that much money. And with more stimulus coming, whoa, we're going to be printing more money. So one of the things that's interesting about cryptocurrencies, and of course, Bitcoin being one of those, is that there's zero inflation. As a matter of fact, there's only going to be a maximum of 21 million Bitcoins ever created. That's it. That's all that can happen. So instead of we just keep printing it and have it devalue, actually there's only so much of it that will ever be created. And it's very secure, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the reasons why, now again, am I saying Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency? No, it is one of many. And cryptocurrency is part of our future, but so is paper money. So is a physical wallet. Remember the both and concept? We still like to feel and secure if I can touch and feel it. Although I don't know about you, but I haven't gone in my wallet in a long time. Matter of fact, even my credit card, I'm not using that much. I'm using my credit card and my phone much more, but hey, that's just me. But I still have money in a wallet, and I still carry a wallet with me. Not sure how long I'll be doing that, but you know what? I still do that. Although maybe it's because I'm a baby boomer. Maybe if I was 20 years old, I would not even be thinking about a wallet, physical wallet. Maybe it'd all be digital. Again, we have different mindsets as we have different, whether you're a Gen Z, Gen Y, baby boomer, wherever you are, which by the way is another opportunity. And that is look at what the mindset is of the customer and tailor something for them. So I just wanted to bring up opportunity antenna, pay attention to things that are happening. Another one, there's a company called Vertical Harvest, and they've decided that they can use vertical farming, something that I've been talking about since the early 90s, where you actually grow plants indoors. And that is proven to be extremely good, extremely efficient. We can do far more than just grow marijuana indoors, which by the way you can do, and hemp, but you can also grow anything, any big plants indoors and be quite efficient. So what they've done is they're building buildings that for affordable housing, that have affordable housing coupled with the farms, vertical farms. How much can you produce in a year? 1 million pounds of produce. Yeah. Would you want to do more of those perhaps? And by the way, it's just now you can't eat in that affordable housing 1 million pounds of produce. Well, actually what you're doing is you're creating something that is an income stream. It's free housing, free a lot of things if you want to make it that way, and you sell and to people around you. Because right now we spend a lot of time and a lot of energy shipping food all over the place. I know I had some blueberries this morning and they came from Mexico. Now I'm in San Diego, so that isn't quite as far, but if you're in Wisconsin, you had blueberries, I guarantee you they weren't grown in Wisconsin, but they could be. So that, hey, opportunity antenna up. You can do some amazing things with that. How about RE Energize, another company? Got to keep your eye on them. They came up with a great idea. They were keeping their opportunity antenna up and saw that you can turn a dam into a giant battery, because during the day when energy is expensive, you pump the water up to the top in holding containers, and then during the evening you have it go back down again, and that's where you can. We actually have it going down during the day when it's expensive. We have it going up at night when it's cheap. So anyway, what do you do? They're doing that with hills. So they found they can turn any good size hill into a giant battery, if you will. So what do? They are actually using water at this point, and they pump it up when the expense is low, and then it goes down to create the electricity when it's high. Again, that one is, let me get the name of that one right, RHE, Energized. So where might you want to do that? Might you want to think of other ways that you can create energy? Again, just things to think about. Another breakthrough is a company came out with a way of making glass by using paper and by using wood. So you can make wood, but yet it's a see-through glass window, like a window. Now, when you hear something like that and you think, wow, I mean, what would I want to do with that? Who might want a window made out of a paper, out of wood? And I can think, well, for example, there's over 1 billion people that don't have any windows on the planet. If you think globally instead of just locally, that we might like to have a window. I'd like to have an inexpensive window made by something that we all have access to. Maybe even refurbished cardboard from all that shipping that we're doing with our Prime deliveries. What do we do? They could turn that into windows for people that need windows. Maybe there's some other uses. I like to be creative. I like to just think out of the box. Let's take a look at Apple. Apple in the last quarter, what was their revenue? $100 billion in their last quarter. And what are they making their money on? They're making their money on, of course, smartphones, smart tablets, smart watches. And what did Tim Cook say just last week? He said they're about to be releasing something that is far bigger than smart watches, smartphones, and smart tablets. Far bigger, and soon. By the way, I've been predicting what it is for the last 10 years, saying it's coming based on the 3 digital accelerators that I teach you about in my learning system. That's where you can see how fast things are going to be developing and when they'll come out. So what is it? I've been telling you what it is. Let me tell you what it is right now. It is augmented reality glasses. They'll also have virtual reality systems as well, but the big one I think is going to be their augmented reality. So that, and again, we can make them now, but they're kind of big, they're kind of clunky. And I think the key is making them look like regular glasses. Again, I envision what we have here. This is the rheostat. So I can have nothing in my frame of view. I can have everything in my frame of view. It's kind of like a little mini TV set, but I can change so that I can overlay things and see at the same time that I see the regular world. So virtual reality, which also right now is another big game changer. Microsoft and others have some amazing new virtual reality headsets out there. And using that for education, for training, for architecture, for design, for real estate, for sales. I mean, unbelievably great. And the price, of course, is dropping like crazy as the quality is going up. That's virtual reality. But the problem with that is I got to close myself out of the regular world and be in a virtual environment. Plus, the software is more expensive to develop. The great thing about augmented reality is that once you have the glasses, all I need is some data sets to be able to pull in from my glasses, which are, of course, connected to my phone through Bluetooth, which is, of course, going to AI up in the cloud. So what's the advantage? I don't have to be making all this stuff. Apple's making it. By the way, will Samsung have their version of those glasses? Doesn't take rocket science to know. Hey, they will too, and a number of others. So this is going to be giant, just like when Apple put out the really great, super first smartphone, and all of a sudden the others started doing it as well. It's going to be a cascade. So where's the advantage? What do you think would have value in any of the industries that I mentioned that are defining and reinventing themselves for augmented reality? What would you want to have there? Because that's where you can make money. That's where you can start a business. I don't have to own the AI. I don't have to make this. I have to develop what are you going to do on that? What are you going to do in the virtual reality system? And by the way, you could use crowdsourcing to fund that business. You could, if you wanted to create something out of that, you could find engineers all over the world, scientists, programmers everywhere, who would be happy to work with you on developing it. So again, opportunities like crazy. For example, if I'm a doctor and I'm doing surgery, or a nurse, wouldn't I want to be able to, as I'm looking at the patient, overlay, right, as I'm looking, the vitals, maybe even overlay exactly where I should be making the incision. Maybe overlay, well, what would you like to do? The sky's the limit. You might have heard me say in the past, there's only so many keys in the piano. It's been the same way before Beethoven, yet we keep creating new music no one's ever heard before. So the only limitation, there's only one limitation. You see it every day when you look at the mirror, you and our thinking. So I know there's a lot of bad news out there. Remember, good news doesn't sell, bad news does sell. And if there's no bad news, they give you the anniversary of bad news. And you can get awful bummed out the more news you listen to, especially skewed news. So skewed meaning either one way or the other, which means it's really not news. It's really opinion disguised as news on all angles. I would say, let's step back and get a little less of all that, which creates a cloud keeping us from seeing the mountain of opportunity. And let's spend a little bit more looking for that opportunity. Speaking of all that, and again, we're going to get into taking your questions and me stimulating you on a few other things. First, let me mention that I've got a deep dive coming up this Tuesday. And I think you really should be in that deep dive. The deep dive is, again, it's coming up this Tuesday, the 23rd. And what I'm doing is talking about how do we move from essential to indispensable, both as an individual in our career, as well as a company, regardless of how big you are. Let's face it, they're every drugstore in the United States, every pharmacy, every gas station, every grocery store, every accounting firm, and more, they're all essential. So out of all of the grocery stores that you could drive to that are all essential, are any of them indispensable to you? What if one wasn't? Would that make a difference? By the way, there's a way to do that. Out of all of the essential workers in a firm that is labeled essential, and they're all essential workers, they all have essential job functions, but are any one of them individually indispensable? By the way, there's a way to become that. And if you are, you could probably make more money. You could probably ask for a raise and get it. I don't think you want to miss this deep dive. It's coming up Tuesday. You can go to the website let's see. I think let me see. I think I might have written that. Yeah. If you put in there's a promo code, and if you put in the word transform, you can get a major discount on that getting in there. Now, that is not an open webinar like this. That's you have to become a member of my Anticipatory Leader learning system to get in there. But look, you can join for a month and see how you like it. You don't have to join forever. I've had less than I think maybe 6 or 7 people total that have ever left out of all the years I've been doing it. Why? Because they like it that much. So I'd like you to give it a try. Now you can get an annual membership. You can get a monthly membership. The cost is pretty low. The value is pretty high because you get more than just me giving you that deep dive and the ability to ask me questions about that deep dive, but you get access to my award-winning learning system. You get access to tools and features and functions, all kinds of great stuff. So check it out. Go to the website, take a look. I think you'll like that deep dive. All right, a few other things. What about 5G? 5G is really still just being rolled out here in San Diego. We've got 5G. And in matter of fact, in a lot of places, when you have 5G, you've got faster connections than your Wi-Fi. There's several different types of 5G. Some is covering a broader area, and it's just fast for sure, but it's not super ultra fast, because there's another brand type of 5G that is ultra fast, faster than your Wi-Fi. And of course, as we build it out, we'll see more and more of the ultra fast spreading out. From where? From the big cities where it starts going out. And what about rural? Well, that's where good old Elon Musk comes in again. I think close to a quarter of all the satellites that are in space are now Musk's, because he's putting these small satellites up there, creating Starlink, bringing internet and broadband to not just rural America, which still is waiting for it, but bringing internet connections to billions of people on the planet that have never had access because of a remote location. Wow, that's another game changer. What would we do with that? 5G, you could implement it if you're a company, even rural right now, you could have 5G right now, super fast. You're a big company and you're waiting for it to come. You don't have to wait, because there's an industrial version of 5G that you can get for your company. There's a business version where they can put it in for your site, for where you're located. Wow, what could you do with those kind of blazing speeds where you didn't have them before? Could you make use of that? Is that new opportunities? Could you, listening to this right now, help enable that? In other words, what if you decided to look at what companies don't have really good speeds, are big, huge, could benefit from much faster connections and much more reliable connections, and maybe you create yourself as an intermediary, working with the companies like the Verizons or the AT&Ts that can put in an industrial version of this and work with them and become a reseller of broadband. Start a company like that right now, boom, just like that. So let's not get so hung up on the news that's out there. Because again, man, you could get really bummed out. I got some friends of mine that I've talked to that are like really bummed out. Well, yeah, they listen to the news all the time. No wonder. Look at all the opportunity. The more you look, the more you see. All right. I could go on and on about all of this. The opportunities are huge. So let's take some questions. Let me spend a good amount of time trying to help you out. So Jennifer, what do we have for some questions?
We have a live question from Lane. Lane, go ahead when you're ready.
All right, got to get that microphone on. I'm not hearing Lane yet. So Lane, if you're trying to get it, remember, you got to go down to the bottom, make sure your mic is turned on. Because we've turned you on, but you got to turn yourself on your end. If we don't hear you soon, we'll have to go to somebody else and you'll have to type in your question.
Yep, let's jump to somebody else.
All right, Lane, since we couldn't get you, type in your question. I'll see if I can get to it. Go ahead.
Yep. Question from Florian. I have a lot of innovative ideas, but I struggle with picking one and going with it. How can I find business partners that can complement my skill set?
Good question. Well, first of all, focus is a really important thing. And so, there's never a shortage of ideas. And I believe that every person that's on this, number one, is smart. You probably wouldn't be here in the first place. Number two, you're already like the idea of being an anticipatory, and you're looking for opportunities, and you're an idea person. I would say that's true for every single person here. And there's no shortage of good ideas. The key is, which one do you really focus on? And one of the ways of doing that is, again, using the hard trend, soft trend methodology. If you haven't got into that yet, many of you have, but if you haven't, that's where you might want to get into the learning system and start getting into that in a deeper way. So my suggestion, assuming you've already done that, is to take a look at your different opportunities that you've identified. You have many, you said, and look at the hard trends and related opportunities for each one of those. All right. Don't just look at the hard trends, look at the soft trends related to each one of those. Remember, you can change a soft trend if you don't like it. Maybe it's not moving as fast as you would like. Well, you could change that. So once you do that, filter it down to what I would call the low-hanging fruit for you. And that is, which is the one that will give you the biggest amount of payoff with the lowest amount of risk and the shortest amount of time so you can get launched. So I would narrow it down so that you're not frustrated with all those great ones. By the way, it doesn't mean you can discard all those and never do them again. But when I launched the first mobile real estate apps back over a decade ago, what I did is I had 100 opportunities for mobile apps that I identified. And I knew all 100 would be done because they were based on hard trends. But I used Google search, which is free, to see what words out of those 100 were being looked at and let's say, typed in to find out information about the most. And that's where I came back then. It was, of course, foreclosures. And since that word was coming up the most every day, I decided to get into developing a real estate app, which that's another story, did extremely well, etc. So maybe you even do that and see where's the most interest by using Google out of all of your ideas right now. And there's tools for that are free. All right, so the second thing is, how do you get help? Well, there are a number of sites, and you could find them on Google by doing a search where you can find people that will actually bid to help you. In other words, you have a job, you define what that job is, and you put it out there on that site, and they will come back to you and have people from all over the world saying, yeah, I can do that. Here's my suggestion, and here's what I would cost to do that. So that's one way to do it. Or you can find entrepreneurs out there by using either Facebook or LinkedIn, an amazing tool for finding, because there's all these subgroups. And there's probably a group around your subject area loaded with people that are already interested in that, or already good at that. And you could say, hey, I'm looking for people that might want to develop this with me. Many ways of finding help out there. All right. Elance is one of the early, .com is one of the early ones that could do things. And there are many others where you've got people out there that are in what's called the gig economy, where they look for things that they're good at and submit, and you can get your virtual workforce that way. All right. Let's have another one.
Okay, question from David. Insurance comes up a lot as barriers for business. Either coverage is denied, or they will not cover you, or rates keep skyrocketing. It seems that insurance is delivered quite inefficiently. Where do you think the insurance industry is headed?
Wow. Well, I'm really glad you asked that, because insurance is being, right now as we speak, redefined and reinvented by technology. And remember, insurance is about managing risk. And in the past, doing that and setting up insurance required all sorts of things that those barriers are now have been removed. So just like there's something called fintech, which is financial technology that is disrupting banking, disrupting credit unions, disrupting our financial system with using technology to create new ways of doing what you wanted to do before, except at a much lower price. We've got something called Insurtech taking place right now. By the way, I suggest you After this, go on Google and do a search for Insurtech, and you'll find all kinds of examples of disruption in insurance. So insurance is one of those that's being redefined and reinvented right now. And ask yourself, matter of fact, it might not be bad for you to go to the basics for a minute, because you probably know insurance already. That's why you asked. But sometimes it helps us to revisit the basics. Do a Wikipedia search for what is insurance. Pick a certain type of insurance. See what it says about it, because that will, but have your opportunity antenna up as you read. And you'll start to get ideas of, oh, that's really very limiting, isn't it? Or maybe there's new ways of doing that. So even going back to the basics of what are the different categories of insurance, what types of insurance do we have, and how could we do that, and come up with a different way of funding it. By the way, businesses as big as Amazon, as small as your local hardware store, all of them don't like insurance the way it is today. And there's a new way of creating groups of people in one area, in one focus. Maybe it's an industry focus, maybe it's a business focus, maybe it's an employee type focus, where you can create a new group that could self-fund themselves. All sorts of ways of redefining and reinventing it. All right, so that's one I would pursue, and I would take a look and pick a focus area within insurance, do a FinTech search on it, and see what's being done now, and then realize they're only scratching the surface. So look at what's being done now to disrupt insurance, and then ask yourself, what could I do that they're not even thinking about? Because they're looking here, I would like you to look there. Okay, let's have another one.
Okay, question from Hamilton. Thank you for the webinars. It has been a great opportunity to review some points of views. How do you see the legal market, specifically for lawyers, after the pandemic?
Wow, another one that was actually being redefined and reinvented before the pandemic, as I'm sure you know, because my guess is you are a lawyer. And look, AI is getting more and more powerful, exponentially every day. And during the pandemic, AI actually accelerated by 5 or 6 years in just a matter of months, and its use of AI. So AI and automation is going to continually disrupt legal, lawyers, accountants, auditing, those kinds of areas, because we can automate a lot of those things and provide high-level counsel in an automated way. So what I would like you to think about is a couple of things. Number one, what are the soft skills, those competencies that you, if you're a lawyer, I got a feeling you probably are, I'm guessing that, what are the soft skills that you could do to elevate yourself beyond AI? Because there's and I have in my Technotrends newsletter, you go to burrus.com and make sure you're getting that one. I've got an article coming up that actually I've just finished writing about the 12 competencies that we can use to beat AI. And by the way, I'll be doing more on that beyond that article. And those 12 competencies are all the art side that we don't learn in school, because we learn the science in school, we learn art on the job. An example of that would be you learn to be a lawyer just like all the other lawyers when you're in school. You pass the bar and you got great grades just like all the other lawyers. And by the way, they're all smart. But yet some lawyers are much better than others. That's because they learned the art side and become much better at it. So what I would suggest is make sure you know what that art side means, what those competencies are, and elevate yours so that you will not be automated. Now I'm talking about just you personally. And then secondly, look at what are the things, again, that are all the technologies that are already disrupting legal. They already are. Think of it as legal tech. Remember I mentioned Insurtech? Remember I mentioned FinTech? Well, there's legal tech as well, where you're automating a lot of those functions. It's already been happening. It's happening maybe faster than you realize. But instead of saying it's too late, they're already doing it. That's one of the blocks to creativity. By the way, everybody listen to this. One of the blocks to our own innovation is, well, surely they're already doing it. Or, oh my goodness, they're already doing that. My idea is no good. instead of they're only doing a small portion. There's a much bigger portion of positively disrupting legal and being a lawyer that is not being done right now, and you could do that. So take a look, and again, you could look at some of the open webinars that I've done in the past, where I've talked about some of these things. I have done, I think, 14 deep dives on subjects that, like the one I'm doing coming up on Tuesday, and they're all archived within the learning system. So when you join the Anticipatory Leader Learning System, not only get the learning system, not only get monthly deep dives, but you get access to all the old ones. I've got a couple of ones where I spent an hour talking about the opportunity of the acceleration and how you can tap into it. So another reason you may want to check into that. So legal, oh yeah. Lawyers, yeah. By the way, we're going to need lawyers. Are we going to need accountants? Yeah. But not the ones that are doing the more robotic things that AI can do today. They're, again, developing that soft side, those 12 competencies that I'll be writing, that I've got an article coming out on. Okay, let's do a few more. We've got time yet, and I want to make sure I'm giving some ideas to a lot of people. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, question from Manel. I do training for the financial institutions. This includes banks, insurance, and government agencies. Right now, they complain that budget is low. What can I do to charge and get a better return for my training efforts?
Well, we need to sell the value of what you are doing and what your training is giving them. And what I would suggest is something I've covered in another deep dive in my learning system, and that is the cost of the no. Because they're looking at you as an expense, not as an investment. All right? They see you as an expense. I'm selling training. Now you're not selling training. You're selling results. So what is the result that they are really needing right now? What is their biggest problem? And is your training solving that problem? And what kind of money are they saving if that training you're giving them is indeed solved? In other words, I want you selling results, not selling training. Secondly, maybe you need to elevate your training. Maybe you need to reposition it just a little bit. Also, what's the cost of not getting your training? So when you're talking about it, you've got to sell, here are the results that I'm giving you. Here's what I'm doing for you. And then secondly, if you don't do it, let me just describe, based on these hard trend certainties, here are some things that I can say will happen by not getting that training that I provide, and the cost of it. And by the way, the cost of not getting it is far more than the cost of getting it. So they'll see that you're a bargain and a deal. There's another element that I have taught in my learning system, and that is around taking your problem and skipping it. And one of the elements of taking your problem and skipping it is germane here. And that is whatever problem you've got, that's not it. So they don't have a budget, they don't have the money. That's not really the problem. That's not your problem. That's not their problem. It's about the relevance you have to them and the urgency you have. So if you're not seen as urgent, if you're not seen as highly relevant, if you're seen as something I have to do instead of something I need to do, if you're not seen as a result, a positive result that I want, you're going to continue to struggle. So I would take a look at what you do and how you're positioning it. Okay, let's have another one.
Okay, question from Daniel. Interested on your thoughts of how new data and AI may impact the focus of governments who could produce more information about the value of policy choices.
Yeah, very good. Well, government is sitting on, and I'm talking about all governments, are sitting on amazing amounts of data. And they have not really even drawn out the value of that data yet. By the way, opportunity antenna up, another giant opportunity for you, because they don't even realize the kind of value they've got. Actually, government could self-fund itself if it was selling to business the amazing amounts of data it already has. And now I'm not talking about giving away your driver's license and your personal information, but rather selling the insights from that data. By the way, they would need help on that. They would need a company to provide that kind of service. Secondly, governments are very inefficient, as we know. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't like regulations. But regulations are designed to help us. That's why they exist. What's the problem with regulations? Well, they're not done in an efficient, cost-effective way. They cost a lot of money and it require a lot of manpower. The regulation itself may be pretty good regulation. For example, in the United States, there's a regulation on making sure we keep asbestos out of the environment because we know it gives us cancer. There's regulation regulating the use of asbestos. Well, that's good. I don't want to get cancer, neither do you. But at the same point, we could say, boy, that's an inefficient, that regulation costs us money. It limits business. Let's get rid of that regulation. And of course, that wouldn't be too good if you look at future health. What we really need to do instead is make that regulation much more efficient, much more effective, and have much less of a negative impact. That can be done, and there is an opportunity for that. So I would suggest government is ripe. And here's the good news. Government during COVID has also suffered a lot. They're suffering a lot. Why do you think they're printing so much money? They need a lot of help. And I think, again, if your opportunity antenna is up, you could see ways of helping government and getting them to want you. Remember, you can't be seen as a cost to be controlled. You need to be seen as a investment that can save government massive amounts of time and massive amounts of money. Quick example before we go too far, so you can see what I'm talking about. In Michigan, there was, what was one of the, I think it's the third largest city. I don't want to give you the name of it without remembering it. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I better not say what the name is because I like to be accurate in giving my information to you. But it's one of the major cities, and the governor found out about the Internet of Things by making things smart. And what he did is he started putting in smart lighting, smart traffic signs, and making those smart, and putting in a few other intelligent using Internet of Things technologies. And he was able to lower costs by over 46% in 1 year of the government. In other words, he was able to decrease how much his local government was spending just by putting in Internet of Things. He became a hero. There are many ways that government can use us to trim costs, to become more efficient. Take a look at the opportunities. It's huge. All right, let's have another one.
Okay, another question. With all of the automation, do you feel we could become more disconnected with people? For example, more texting than calling?
Great question. Thank you. There is, going way back to the 80s, there was discussion of either it's high touch, meaning high human, or high tech. But the reality is those two can be apart only if we let them be apart. We can intentionally bring them together because you can do a wonderful, amazing things with technology, or you can do things that are very inhuman and disconnect us more. I think that we have let our smartphones and our devices control us more than we control it. So in many ways, we've disconnected from each other and we're feeling the pain of that. Matter of fact, if you look at teen suicide rates, they're way up, not just during the COVID pandemic, but before that. Why? Well, we become disconnected using our Facebook and losing our texting and all of that without having the human connection that humans need. So at some point, the pendulum swings. It's called the cycle. And we're getting to a point where we're getting so disconnected through over texting and over Facebooking and overdoing all that stuff that we're becoming less happy, less satisfied. And we don't even get to know our kids very well, or our kids get to know us. At some point, it gets so extreme that we start disconnecting more from those things and connecting more to the human part as we go back the other way. So I would say that you're going to see, and I've been seeing this already, people doing more and more, less texting and more phone calls. Zoom has been interesting because it's a way of actually seeing a person, hearing them, connecting with them. I actually attended a wedding a couple of days ago that they didn't want to wait, so they had the wedding via Zoom, a whole ceremony. It's actually very cool. And they will have a physical wedding sometime later, probably this year. But It was cool to get to see everybody. It was really nice. We even had a virtual reception. So we're learning that that is good and that can be great and much better than just a text. Hey, hope you liked your wedding. Or seeing pictures of it on Facebook and saying, yeah, it looked like it was kind of interesting. In other words, this Zoom thing has kind of taken it to another level, but it still is not as good as actually being there. So here's the opportunity. I like to have our opportunity antenna up on this one. And that is, people have been shut down for a long time. People have not been getting together free for a long time. And as we have more and more people vaccinated, more and more people protected, and the rates of disease start going down more and more, and we feel that we can be comfortable getting together without worrying about all these variants and all this stuff taking place. All of a sudden, you're going to have a lot of pent up opportunity for people wanting to get together. We're talking bars, restaurants, weddings, all kinds of stuff. Matter of fact, it's going to be off the charts. How are you going to manage that? Have you thought about the opportunity ahead of time of that's going to happen because we're humans? What are the ways that we can enable those human-to-human contacts even better? All right, think about that. We get time for a few more. By the way, don't forget, go to burrus.com to register for next week's deep dive. You're going to want to join the anticipatory leader system for that. But as I said, heck, you could even do it for a month and see how you like it. I think you're going to really like it because you get a lot for not a lot of money. Check it out. All right, Jennifer, let's take a couple more.
Okay, I have a question from Lane. I'm in the real estate development and redevelopment industry. This industry hasn't implemented technology to the same degree as other industries, perhaps due to the labor-intensive requirements. What do you see changes that technology could impact in real estate?
Well, one of the things, Lane, that I love is industries that have been slow to use digital transformation, to use technology. I love that. Why? Much more opportunity. Now you might think, oh, it's much more difficult because they're all stuck in their old way of thinking. But thanks to, again, 2020 and the weird year that we've had, everybody is re-looking at their industry. Everybody, even those that have been kind of slow to change. And they're realizing, hey, the world is changing, am I? So what I'm suggesting is in real estate, whether it's real estate development, whether it's construction, whether it's building, whether it's design, whether it's sales, it is ripe for digital transformation and complete disruption in a positive way. I'm not talking about getting rid of people and eliminating jobs. I'm talking about changing jobs and having people learn some new skills. So real estate is a big subject. I would take a look at what element of real estate, because you didn't get into all of the details of, what aspect of real estate you're looking at. Sounds like it might be real estate development. Maybe it's developing a new shopping mall or a new, let's say, community where people live. Because a lot of people during COVID have said, I don't want to be in the city, I want to be in the country, I want to be somewhere else. So there's new housing developments maybe you're looking at. And again, I want to make sure that I've got the future in mind as I develop those, meaning I need to have bandwidth. I need to build change into the building because if it can't be changed as technology is changing, it'll be obsolete before you even finish building it. So there's a lot of ways of looking at it and making sure change is built in the future. It's a future ready house. Based on the hard trends that are shaping it. It's a future-ready subdivision, which makes it more valuable, and so on. So I think what I'm getting at is, as I said in the beginning of this, everything is being redefined and reinvented to help you, because there's another principle that I've talked about and have taught, and that is scarcity brings abundance, abundance brings scarcity. What I mean by that is if you've got infinite things that you could do, all kinds of different opportunities, then you have a scarcity of ideas of what to do. When you have a scarcity of options, you come up with abundance of ideas. So right now, you're probably seeing a lot of opportunity. I would narrow it down into what specific area are you really wanting to target? Then you'll start getting an abundance of ideas of how you can pursue it and what you want to positively disrupt. Remember, I define positive disruption as creating the transformations that need to happen to elevate your relevancy and accelerate growth and create a better future for yourself and for others. With that, I will end this particular open webinar, and I want to remind you of the deep dive. Remember, I've got my 25 technology trends list. Go to burrus.com. You can, on the front page, you can get that, download it, take a look. It's a great way to see opportunities. And don't forget, we will have another one of these open webinars in about 3-4 weeks. We'll keep you posted as to when that is. And remember, stay healthy, stay safe, and let's shape a better tomorrow. Let's not just passively receive it. Let's actively shape it.